Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our NorthStar Community Online and In-Person Service. We're so glad to be here again today. And for you that are here, I keep making the assumption that if you're watching me, you're dealing with something. And so we always want to remember the great line I heard from Beth here at our church is, addiction is addiction and recovery is recovery. So you may be struggling with, well, if we go back to step one in the 12 steps says, something in my life became more powerful than I could manage, and my life became unmanageable. So I'm assuming if you're watching this, either you are struggling with stuff in your life that's unmanageable, has become that way, or you're a family member or close friend who's doing that. So again, I congratulate you for coming and listening to this. This is not always easy to hear about, but I will tell you, recovery is worth doing. And it is so exciting to see and hear the recovery stories out there. And it is discouraging to hear all the addiction going on out there. There's so much pain and suffering out there, and the COVID-19 has not helped this at all. And so we've got to find ways to recover and move forward in our lives so we can have what we want, which is a rich, full, meaningful life. One that has purpose, has meaning, joy. And then when we don't have those, we can manage it better because of our recovery, because we're all going to have tough setbacks at times. But if we're looking forward, working on our recovery, we can make things so much less destructive. So real fast, we meet on Fridays at 6:30 if you are here in town, and you'll come around to the back of our church, Walter Grove Baptist Church. Come around to the back of the church, walk through the glass double doors, and you'll smell the great food Stan's making, and you will hear people talking. So again, I know for you that don't know anyone that comes to NorthStar, if you're hurting, you're struggling, you're suffering with addictions of some sort, try to find the courage to come. Everyone in there is doing the same thing. Everyone in there understands addiction. Everyone understands what it takes to recover. Everyone understands things like relapse, all those things. So living and isolating yourself in shame does not work. So come join us. You'll be glad you did. So the other thing that we look at with NorthStar is that we're trying to really manage toxic shame really in so many ways. And so that's why you want to come. We also have another meeting on Wednesday nights at 6:30, and it's at the front of the church. So Friday nights back of the church, Wednesdays front of the church, and then of course Sunday mornings Sunday school front of the church. And the Wednesday night was a little bit more focused, and right now we're focused on boundaries, and Lisa's leading that and doing a great job, and great group, and they're really getting a lot out of it. So if you can come to any of those, please come by. I know our addictive minds tell us to not connect. Our addictive minds tells us that everybody's out to get us. Our addictive minds tell us that what we're doing is not so bad. But part of us somewhere tells us there's something wrong, and we're losing control of our lives in the right ways. I believe the word would be, we are losing positive control of our lives. You're not alone. You won't be the last. You certainly aren't the first to have these things happen, but you can recover. Come join a group. Because, if you think about really what our goal is to have rich, full, meaningful life, which would also say means that you want to be a good, decent person. You don't hear perfect in there. You don't hear all these big words. But being a good, decent person is really pretty cool. And that's what we're after. And so if you come to NorthStar, you're going to be around some other people who are striving to be good and decent people. So anyway, welcome to today. So glad you're here. So we've been talking about we're talking about addictive thinking. Last week we talked about self-deception. And today we're going to talk about the concept of time. So self-deception is what we talked about last week, and again, I always love the great joke about when do you know an addict's lying? When their lips are moving, right? I mean, that is so true. But we tend to always say, well, you can't trust addicts, they're lying. But the thing is, who we really are lying to the most is ourselves. when we say things like, I don't need anyone else, I can do this on my own, I quit for 2 days, so obviously I don't have a problem, or I could quit anytime I need to, not a problem. Well, I know such and such who's doing a lot worse than I am. Those are all ways that we try to keep ourselves addicted. And you may say, well, why would we do that? Well, addiction is a way to avoid facing the pain in our lives. So what we have to realize is, for almost all of us, we have faced some forms of trauma and abandonment in our lives. And so we have built our lives around avoiding pain. So addictive thinking's job is to help us to avoid pain. So in the moment, it makes sense. I mean, think of all those crazy things you've said to yourself that you actually made sense to you in the moment. Those things you did, like, not showing up to work for 2 weeks and then being shocked and stunned when they fired you, right? Those are the things that we do. Or us, enabling someone in our lives. We keep making excuses for them. We keep saying, well, it's not that bad. Or, well, I mean, how many people have I heard when they've been in very traumatic relationships and they'll tell me, well, he was good more than he wasn't, right? No, that's not okay. That's you being addictive. And, it's like, or I always like the funny one about someone was taking the ACE survey, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And so in there it says, were you ever or often beaten, slapped, or humiliated, basically? And so one of people they went, now, what does often mean? Right? It's like, if you have to ask the question, put a 1 there, because you obviously were abused. So when our brains become addicted, what happens is our brain quits being connected. So up here in the front of our brain is what we call the executive functioning part of the brain. And that's the part that says things like, do you really want to eat that entire bag of Oreo cookies? Do you really want to? Probably not going to be good for you. Or, driving 100 miles an hour with an open can of beer in your hand is probably not a good idea, right? So but the problem is, so the midbrain is going, more is better. Let's do it. More Oreo cookies really be better. And you know what? Let's go 100 miles an hour. This is fun. Let's do it. Let's drink a little bit more too while we're at it, right? So the problem is the highway gets washed out between here and here. So this part of your brain is going, stop, quit, stop, you're killing yourself. This part's going, let's just keep going, right? And that's what makes it so hard for recovery. And that's why you have to become aware of these things so you can do something about it. And that's why, so one of the things I heard one time was someone said, you know what the word we addicts hate the most? No. We hate the word no. No, you cannot drink anymore. No, you got to get off social media. No, you got to quit abusing people. No is no. Addicts, that's very hard for us to hear. So we have to find ways to become aware of it, first of all, and then become aware of the reasons. Again, the reasons are, for most of us, we've had trauma and abandonment in our lives. We're doing things to not feel that pain. And if you think about it very logically, many people I know are carrying toxic shame with them from things that happened 30 years ago. And I would venture to say that, this is just me talking anecdotally, but I would venture to say that 80% of the people I know who are carrying toxic shame were the victims of the shame. They were not the perpetrators. That's what makes it even more, I don't know what word to use, ridiculous when you think of it that way. And make sure I say this to you, for you that were perpetrators, you also can recover and you also are forgiven, so don't carry that with you. But too many of us are carrying shame that happened to us as children that wasn't our fault. And I always want to say this again to you that are parents now. I've had parents say to me, I feel terrible because I look at the ACE score and all of the things I did when I was addicted. My kids have high ACE scores because of me. Well, go fix it. You can feel sorry for yourself all you want. Go fix it. You can do that. We can't turn the clock back. There's no way you can turn the clock back. All you can do is move forward. And one of the greatest recovery moments for kids who have suffered is to hear from their parents, I am sorry. Let me make my amends to you. I am now going to be connected to you in healthy ways. It can be done. It's not impossible. So let me read Matthew 5. I just love this. This is the Message version. This is what I like the best for us in NorthStar. I just think it's such a I don't think Eugene Peterson, when he was, writing the Message, using the Bible interpretation, I don't know whether he was thinking recovery, but there's times I think he was. So this is Jesus talking. He's on he's up on the Mount, Temple Mount. Everybody's around him, lots of people, and he's speaking to a whole bunch of people. And he says, "You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there's more of God and his rule." And man, I'll tell you what, affluent countries like America, we hate to hear that one, right? We want a pill. We want something to help us. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. So we always talk about with grace, which is the miracle and the awesomeness of God, is his grace for us, never ending, nothing you've done is more powerful than the power of his grace. But the problem is, as St. Augustine said, we got to do this. We got to accept grace with open hands. What we do, a lot of us, is we do this, right? So we want to lose everything to gain God. Well, we don't want to lose everything. There's still a few things I want to hang on to, right? So that's hard. So as easy it is to have God's grace in your life, it's really hard to let go of everything. That's why Jesus told us, said, love your neighbor enough. Love yourself enough to love your neighbor is really what he's saying. And then he said, get rid of anything that's more important than God. And, of course, we all go, there we go. I just did it, right? But we really didn't. We're hanging on to stuff. And for a lot of us, what I see in recovery, we won't let go of the shame in our lives. We won't let go of the guilt and shame in our life. That is us hanging on. We're afraid to let go and trust and connect again. Understood. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. One of the things we love to do in this country is buy things to help us feel better, right? I don't know what percentage of Amazon's billions are based on that. Probably more than we want to think. You're blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. He's food and drink and the best meal you'll ever eat. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being careful, you find yourselves cared for. So that's why we talk about intentional gratitude. We always talk about random acts of kindness. Do something for someone else. You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and heart, put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. And I really think that's recovery. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. And let's be honest, recovery people, when we are not at that place, we are angry, resentful, bitter. We project our pain on other people. We assume the worst in other people. We expect bad things to happen, blah, blah, blah. For us to recover, we need to be able to see how blessed we are and how we can actually trust other people. So we talked about last week the great quote that illustrated self-deception. And then today we're going to talk about the other quote that is the classic quote that I've heard hundreds of thousands of times, and you probably have said it a few times. The first one is, I sincerely wanted to stop for good. This is a heroin addict, by the way, talking, or cocaine addict. But after 2 weeks, I started up again, and that proves something to me. I'm not stupid. I now know that it is absolutely impossible for me to stop on my own. Maybe. You hear what he said. I absolutely know the only way I'm going to stop, which is his way of saying no, is I have to be with other people. I can't do it on my own. But then he said, maybe. That was his way of giving himself an out and not having to say no. Of course, the other one, I know none of us have ever said this one. I can quit anytime I want. Right? None of us have ever said that one. You know what? I can quit being on Facebook. I was off Facebook yesterday, never got on it. Obviously, I can quit anytime I want. I haven't drank for 2 days. Obviously, I don't need it. I can quit whenever I want, right? So for us to understand, for both us as addicts, but also for us family members, this is important for us to understand. So I always tell people, like, they'll say, well, my addicted adult child is going to move back in with us. And I told them they could stay until they found a place to live. I go, you know what you just said to them, right? You just said right now they can do whatever they want. They can live in your house forever. They said, well, that's not what I said. It is to an addict, because all I care about as an addict is right now. Where am I going to find it? Where am I going to use? How am I going to do it? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not thinking about tomorrow at all in many ways. All I think about is how I'm going to use today. So it's a vicious cycle. We say we stop many times. We make how many of us have made resolutions that we're not going to do such and such anymore? I'm not going to text or call this person anymore. I'm over it. I can see how destructive they are for me. I'm not going to look at YouTube for 3 weeks. I'm not going to get on social media. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to look at porn. I'm not going to buy from Amazon today. I'm giving it all up. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to use cocaine. It is all done. How many times have we said that? I'm not going to overeat. I'm going to start losing weight. You know all of them. But the problem is, with us in addiction, those kind of things don't make any sense. They don't mean anything. Because what we're doing is trying to keep our addiction alive. So the reality is, we're not able to stop at any time. The moment you can say that and really say that, you're on your road to recovery. So when I'm saying over here, I can quit anytime I want, you're still addicted. When you can say, I'm not able to stop anytime, this thing is taking over my life, you may still be addicted, but at least now you're on the right path. Or the other one, of course, we do is, I know you've probably said this when yourselves or done it at some point or heard it, is you get caught doing something addictive, and you go, I'm so awful, I'm so bad, I'm so terrible, nobody cares about me, all that stuff. No, that's just you enabling yourself to drink some more or whatever it is you're doing. I love this story. So, I forgot his name. The director did a lot of movies. He actually passed away not so long ago. He was in the Ghostbusters. Was it Ray Ramos, whatever his name is? Anyway, he was telling a story about Rodney Dangerfield. I guess probably a lot of you know who he is. He was a comedian, funny, he's all get out, but he had horrible drinking problem, in trouble all the time. So he goes, so Harold Ramis was at a party where Rodney was, and he was blitzed, drunk on his rear, didn't know, causing all sorts of problems. So Harold got him to the car, and you can just picture him, he's down on the floorboard of the car, right? He's not in the seat, he's down, and they're driving, and Rodney Dangerfield's going, I'm the low life, I'm the worst drunk ever, I'm the most destructive man, I am awful, I'm terrible. Just kept going and going. Finally, he stops and he goes to Harold, he goes, you know you can stop me at any time. That's such a great story about addiction. So the other problem we get frustrated is, as addicts, is we get frustrated when we say we're going to stop and nobody believes us. We all get all offended by that. We go like, nobody trusts me. Nobody believes me. I said I wasn't going to. I said I wasn't going to be on my phone after 10, and I don't know why you'd take your phone from me, not trust me, right? All these things. The reason we don't trust you is because we know you can't be trusted. And we know we can't be trusted. That's what makes us so mad about it. But you have to realize that there's logic to this. In our addictive thinking is, our concept of time is right now. So if I say to you things like, if you don't stop doing this, you're going to lose your job. What's that going to do with today? It'll work out, right? If you don't quit doing this, you're going to die from cirrhosis of the liver. Oh, that's not going to happen to me. That's for other people, right? You're going to lose your family if you don't stop doing this. Oh, they'll still be. Yeah. See, it doesn't matter what's going to happen with all that stuff because it's not happening now. Does that make sense? So, minutes may seem like hours and hours can seem like minutes, but the point is, it's what we're doing. So when I'm leading up to using, minutes probably seem like hours. When I start using, then hours seem like minutes, right? And of course, we do our classic stop for 2 days, and we're all walking around like, why isn't everybody with me on this? Why don't they believe me? I didn't drink yesterday. I didn't text such and such yesterday. I don't know why you don't believe me. But see, the problem is we can't stop hurting ourselves. We can't stop. It's impossible. And so what we do is we hate the word delay. That's not, we hate no and we hate delays. All right? So I think their way to say it is an addictive mind is very impulsive. Right? So I love that Dr. Torski in his book, Addictive Thing, has such a great analogy. He says, here's what we're going to do. So we put out on the street, there's this new drug. It is awesome. It gives you the highs of highs. No hangovers, nothing but awesome. You're gonna get highs. It's awesome, and guess what? It's free. It's free, and it's not illegal. You can get it anytime you want. So people start lining up around the block coming to get this awesome drug, and they say, but there's one catch to it. You have to wait a week. Everybody would leave. Every addict would leave. There's no way a week would ever be in their mindset. And that's what you have to understand is for addicts, we have to understand impulsive brains. We don't have to have it right now. But in our minds, long delays are just simply unacceptable. So we have to keep thinking about, we have to understand this. If we're going to recover, so last week we talked about self-deception. We have to understand that who do we lie to the most? Ourselves. The second concept is that you can't stop it anytime you want. You can't. You wouldn't be watching this right now. You wouldn't be here if you could. You can't stop it. But how hard is that to say? That's tough. So another quote here, this Dr. Torski. These consequences occur within a few seconds or minutes. How many of you have been sitting there going, oh my gosh, I need one more hour at work and I can go use, right? Or nobody's looking. I can get on Facebook real fast. I just remember I used to manage people. I'd walk by and you'd see the screens quickly switch off or flip to another. We just can't help ourselves when we get to this point. But it's all about now. I got to use right now. I got to get my fix because I'm in pain. I'm hurting. People don't understand how much misery I'm in, whatever it is, right? So these consequences occur within a few seconds or minutes after drinking or using. And these few seconds or minutes are what make up time for addicts. So when we're using, drinking, Facebooking, pornography, gambling, buying, being with a dysfunctional person, that is what we're doing. We're in the moment, right? So when we say things like cirrhosis, you're going to have brain damage, you're going to be abused again, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your family, you're going to lose another relationship, you're going to go to jail, you're going to die if you keep doing this. Those kind of things just that's the result of a long process, and they're not likely to occur within minutes. So they simply do not exist in our thoughts. That's what you have to understand. So family members, quit giving your speeches to addicts about how it's hurting them and how it's going to destroy their future and how it's going to wreck their lives, how they're going to die. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're talking to the wind when you say that. So as addicts, we're oblivious to the future, other than we may see it as bad, which we'll talk about later, called morbid thinking. That's coming in our talks here. But the future really seems far off, and we don't have very high expectations. So all we can think about is right now. And, of course, the problem is in our country, we're a very impulsive country, right? I always use the example of when you go to McDonald's, you don't sit there and go, well, darn, this Big Mac doesn't taste like a Big Mac. They all taste the same. You can go everywhere in the country, it tastes the same. But what does bother you about McDonald's? It took them 2 minutes to get it to me, right? That's what we judge them by. Well, that's kind of how we are as a society. With Amazon, the other day, I was in my impulsive mode. I was trying to get something for cycling, and I wanted it right now. And they were going to get to me in next day. And I was like, that's kind of amazing, but I wish it was today, right? That's our addictive mind. We want it now, and we want it, and we don't care about consequences. So we want immediate responses to texts or calls, right? I mean, we text someone, we're like, it's been 5 minutes, they didn't respond, right? And, of course, if we're codependent, we read into that in all sorts of ways, right? Our co-addiction, well, they don't care about me anymore. They're talking to someone else, blah, blah, blah. Well, they could be working, right? They could be busy. I hate to break it to you, but, So there's just so much of this so we have short-term gains, man, we get stuff right now, but we have long-term pain in this. How many of us get those short-term gains of buying something, using something, talking to someone, wasting 4 hours, and then we really have regrets later? That's what we're talking about. But there's an antidote to this. It's called one day at a time. When I first heard that, I went, okay. Nice cliche statement. I get it. One day at a time. I get it. You know what? If you don't get one day at a time, you're not going to recover. If you utter the words, I'm done, I'm never going to use whatever again the rest of my life, you will be using again. Might be today, might be tomorrow, might be a week from now, but you will. You'll relapse. The only chance you have is one day at a time. It's because remember, we're doing things to help us avoid pain. We're doing things to keep us from getting better. We're doing things to try to get through. Maybe we might, if we use enough, maybe we might even feel normal today. For most addicts, make sure you understand, if you guys aren't addicts, which obviously most of them watching this understand this, is that sometimes we forget, at least at first, the stuff we use for addiction worked really well. It took care of a lot of our pain. And I'm sitting there, and I see myself, I loathe myself, as addicts do. We all loathe ourselves. We're lonely, we're alone, we're desperate, we're in pain, and someone gives us a little attention. We're all over that. We do all these things, and you know what? Eventually it doesn't work, right? But in the beginning it does. When I ask people that are substance abusers, do you remember the first time you used? And they go, yeah, I do. It worked. In the short run, it worked. So let's not forget that. But the other thing is, for all of us, I'm sure all of you are going to nod with me on this too, is we just never feel like we fit in. We feel like there was something odd about us, different, which would be code for wrong about us. We were in some way flawed as children. I've never heard an addict not tell me that. Well, then what do? We find people to help us at least feel normal for a moment. Kind of hard not to want to keep doing that. And so then you come in and you hear stuff like this about, guess what, guys? You got to face your pain. Oh, joy. Can't wait. You know? So one day at a time gives us a chance. All you're going to say is, I'm not going to use today. I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. You have to get this. If you don't get this, you won't recover. When you're doing your thing of, I quit for 3 days, it's obvious I can keep using and it doesn't have control on me, right? Or I'm going to sit in my bedroom and go fetal for 5 days. See, I can do it. No, it doesn't work. What you have to say is, today I am going to not use, do, think, whatever it is we're doing. We have to deal with our distorted concept of time, because our distorted concept of time is another way of not saying no. That's what it really means. So when we say I'm not going to use today, we're saying no for a day. Gives us a chance. But the problem is, in our addictive minds, this is the prayer we use. Please, God, give me patience, but give it to me right now. Right? That's why we have to have people around us. It's a process. It's a process. It's a process. I just can't say it enough. We are not going to get well today. We're not going to get over this today. But we can not use today. And if we don't use today, we have a chance of recovery. I hate to break it to you. Here's another no for you. You will never recover if you keep doing what you're doing. If I'm on Facebook for 7 hours a day and I can't figure out why I'm agitated, irritable, my family can't stand me, and everybody's avoiding me and I'm losing all my relationships, well, guess what? You got to stop using Facebook. I don't know how to say it to you. I hate to hear it, but it's no. Or if I'm drinking every night, I'm sitting in my easy chair and I'm on my 6th beer and I'm irritable and miserable and my kids are annoying me and I'm sitting there drinking and mad because they ran in front of the TV, all that stuff. Guess what? You're not going to recover if you don't stop drinking. You got to stop. I don't care it's beer. I know you guys out there going, well, I don't drink the hard stuff, so obviously I'm not an alcoholic. Yeah, you are, because you're drinking a whole bunch of beer every night. You're disconnected from everybody. You don't want to be around anybody. Everybody annoys you. Yeah, you're addicted, right? Or the guys, I know guys that have ruined their lives with pornography. You got to sleep sometime, guys. Hate to break it to you. You can't, you got to wait till 10 when your wife's gone to bed, right? So then you sit there and watch porn till 4 in the morning. You know what? You're going to lose your job. Hate to break it to you. You're going to lose your family. All that, but it doesn't matter. But you just got to stop right now. You got to stop today. You can't look at porn today. That's all there is to it. You can watch it tomorrow, but don't watch it today. But you got to stop. We don't want to hear that. It's hard. But once we can start doing these things, we can start getting honest with ourselves. It's crazy. We can even have connections with people. It's really, really pretty weird. So no, you got to stop. I can quit whenever I want is like maybe. Yeah. So we have to recognize that part of our downfall is our intolerance of delay. The great story, we got this new drug, it's free, it's the most awesome high you ever get, but you got to wait a week? Nah, not interested. We have to become willing to wait for our rewards of sobriety. How hard is that? How many of us haven't made it because of that one? Instant sobriety is a failure. Sorry, I wish there was. I tell people all the time, I wish I could take a flip the switch and you're clean and sober. I wish it could happen. But that's not how God works. It's not how it works. Like I said, you think about the Old Testament. The Israelites roamed the desert for 40 years. And they were really dumb at times. Just like we would have been. Right? Because God knew instant would not have worked. You can't recover instantly. But you can stop for today. You cannot use for the next hour. You can get through if you have to. Right now, this minute. You don't have to use. We can manage 24-hour segments. We can do that. Most of us can. That's why I don't really, I'll hear people talk about, well, how many years have you been sober? You never hear me ask that question. It's a dangerous question in some ways. We have to keep on one day at a time. And the smart ones, we got some guys and when I say guys, I'm Midwestern, so that's men and women. We have men and women in our groups who have some years behind them. You never really hear them talk about that. You just hear them talk about today, I'm clean and sober. And again, when I was new at this, I thought that was kind of like, okay, I get you. It's cliche. No, it's what it is. You have to look at today only. So, great story. So, in a meeting, new person goes, how long have you been sober? And the guy's answer was 9,834 days. He didn't say years, did he? He said 9,834 years. So the person talking to him said, what is that, like 25 or 30 years? He goes, I don't really know. Maybe you can afford to think in terms of years. I have to think in terms of days. So on his deathbed, in his diary, he had 16,048 days. So you get the point? You got to think day to day. This is a guy who had been clean for a long time. And, of course, the other story, this is another one. It's kind of a symbolic story, but it's a good one. So another one at a meeting, Elizabeth. It must be wonderful to be sober for so long. John, you have been sober longer than I have, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, how can you say that? I've only been sober 2 years, and you've been sober for over 40 years. John, what time did you get up today? I got up at 5:30. I got up at 8, so you've been sober longer than I have. You get the point? One day at a time. That's all you can do, one day at a time. But you start stringing together days at a time, you got something. So we got to say no. If we want a rich, full, meaningful life with recovery, we have to say no. So I hope today we understand that one of the big setbacks for us is when we say the thing that so many of us have said, I can quit anytime. This doesn't have control on me. I don't have to be on Facebook 6 hours, right? But one day at a time. No is the answer to recovery. So let's close with the prayer of serenity. And I thank all of you for being here. Technicians, awesome again to have you guys making this happen. And for you out there, if you need to get a hold of me, call me anytime. 804-746-5081. And you can email me at csimpson@wgva.church. It'll probably be on here in just a second. All right, let's close with a prayer of serenity. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. Taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that Jesus will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. Amen. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and remember, one day at a time.